it's hard to like pursue this if you can't be okay with hearing no. I tell that to my students all the time. Some of them are younger and they're in the early stages and they've been like hearing yeses a lot and they're starting to hear their first no's and it's crushing. And I'm like, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
This is really good. You need to know how to be okay with this. And we're just going to reframe what that rejection is.
Yes.
And so it's a lot of, and I talk about it in my book too. It's like, it's not rejection, it's protection, selection, redirection, and reflection. So which one do you want to choose today? Is it protecting you and you're not supposed to be on this job? Is it redirecting you to something better? Is it an opportunity for you to reflect on what needs more work or potentially what is working and what you get to build upon that? And is it just that you get to be proud of your work and you just weren't the selection today? But we're not going to go back into, I'm a bad artist, I'm not good enough. It's not that.
Welcome to Get Scene Unscripted. I'm your host, Jesse Malinowski. We are going to dive into acting insights, meet industry pros, and master the business. Don't forget to subscribe and share. We're keeping you behind the scenes and ahead of the game. Welcome, everyone. This is Get Scene Unscripted. I'm your host, Jesse Malinowski. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so grateful that you are here. You've decided to tune into our podcast, and if you're coming back, welcome back. By the way, if you've listened to the show more than once and you're not subscribed, I just want to say you're taking advantage of us, and that's not fair. All right, that's all. I'll get off the soapbox. All right, let's dive in. I have an incredible, just performer extraordinaire in the house right now, from dancer to actress, author, Rachael Markarian. What's up? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm glad that you're here, and it's been fun already just chatting with you and getting to know you a little bit. But you have done so many incredible things, from dancing in multiple Super Bowls, been in Top Gun Maverick. I mean, like, you've lived in New York, LA. You're here in Atlanta now. I mean, are you good at like stopping and being proud of yourself?
Yes, because I feel like you have to do that often. I mean, I feel like I'm always kind of reaching for that next level, but I try to also get to those places where I'm like, okay, this is the stuff I was praying for and hoping for. So just take this in while I keep trying to go to that next place.
Yeah.
Let's just also remember this is the stuff I was hoping for 6 months ago, years ago, to be in this position, right? So I try to take inventory as much as I can.
Are you good at, I guess, compartmentalizing it? Like, I feel like there's time where it's like, let's just like be proud, but you can't be too proud because then you can stay stagnant, right? But like, I feel like most people aren't proud of themselves and they're just like never giving themselves credit, and it's like, no,
I feel like you have to, because this business is such a grind that if you don't take inventory and give yourself that acknowledgement, I feel like it's not really coming from a lot of outside sources all the time, right? So we have to kind of give that to ourselves in those moments of quiet and silence. And it doesn't have to be huge and like so over the top, right? But just to be to yourself, like, I'm really proud of the work I'm putting in, even if it's not hitting the booking or the peak place that you want to get to, that like you're proud of. I'm a big person in terms of work ethic. So for me, I'm like, I'm really proud of what I'm investing in this moment, or I'm proud of the strength that I'm having to pull out right now to get to that place, or what this is taking from me to try to keep going forward. So I feel like you kind of have to in a lot of different ways, but it kind of looks different than what it would normally look like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So when you say work ethic, what stands out about your work ethic that you think has led to a lot of your success?
I think as a dancer growing up, it's such a disciplined art form and sport that shaped me in so many ways to be able to handle my career as an actor. That makes sense. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I started dancing when I was 3, and it was always at the forefront. I dove into it. I went to performing arts high school. I was on the dance team. I trained at the studio. I danced competitively, and I went to college for dance, and I pursued it professionally. And so much work went into not only my training, but I don't share this very often, but I was born with like a slight disability. My legs pointed in like the complete opposite direction.
Really?
So yeah, that's kind of why my mom put me in ballet. Was I wore leg braces as a kid, and she was like, let's try to get your hips to even go parallel. Never mind. I mean, ballet, everything
Yeah,
has turned
ballet's
out, you
yeah.
know? And I was a very shy kid. And she was like, I need to get her, comfortable in front of people. And I need to fix this issue with her hips and her legs. So the doctors.
Good job, Mom.
I know.
Good job.
Every day I'm like, thank God she did
Yeah.
that. But the doctors were like, she'll never be a dancer or a model, but if we can get her to walk straight, then we're in good shape. You know, my mom's like, okay, tell me she can't do something and she's going to do it. That's her mentality, right? So she got me into it when I was 3 and I was really bad, like for many, many years. And I didn't like it because it was painful. And then it kind of shifted when I was like 10 years old and I started to look at the dancers at the studio and I was like, wow, they're so beautiful. And like, I could do that, you know? And so there was like an intense work that went into trying to get on the same level as everybody else just to be able to keep up. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
like we did a lot at home behind closed doors. My mom was like, if you're going to be in class with these people, you have to be of the level, which means we have to do this work at home to kind of get you in that space. So I think very early on, I learned the importance of putting in the work and understanding what my dreams are going to take, if that makes sense, right?
Definitely.
So, and I love that it came harder for me, and I love that I was faced with that adversity because it really shaped me to be able to pursue it professionally because it's a hard craft. The competition is huge. And that's just as a dancer, never mind as an actor, which when I started on that path, it made dance look like a walk in the park, which it is not. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So like, had I not really fallen in love with the idea of like, okay, this takes a lot of effort and work, and this is, shaping me into the person that I know that I need to be able to receive those things that I want. So this is where all that effort and time comes in, right? So I don't know as if like having a work ethic makes me different than anybody else, but I also know that I do love hard work, and I sort of am like, this is what it's about. This is what it takes. So like, let's get to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I
it's
love
just, I don't know. I also feel like, and this is something I tell my students too, I'm like, anything worth having does not come easy. And
No.
if it does come easy, chances are it's going to go quite quickly.
Mm.
But when you really have to become another version of yourself and really come up against your edge and really force yourself to level up to get to where you want to be, you reach a certain place, and those things that you've worked so hard for, they're going to stay with you for a bit of time. You know what I mean? As opposed to kind of like it came quick and it went quick. You know, it took a while to get there, but now that you have it, you know what it took from you, and now you nurture that and you build upon that to get to the next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You said that once you got into acting, it made dancing look like a walk in the park. How so? What do you mean by that? Because of the amount of rejection or lack of direction, or what exactly brings that statement out?
I will say now, being a dancer when I started in 2003, okay, way back, is different than pursuing dance professionally now. I think back then there were so many opportunities. There was, Los Angeles was abundant with film, television, variety shows, industrials, music videos, commercials. There was so much work to go around. I don't think I went more than 2 weeks without working as a dancer. There were times where I would be on set for one TV show in the morning and go to a different soundstage for another TV show at night.
Oh, that's badass.
It was crazy. And that didn't always happen. There's times where like things conflicted and you wouldn't be able to do one job, but there was a flow in the dance industry back then, and I toured for many, many years. And when I would get off those tours, there would be like a little bit of a lull and a little bit of an adjustment when you return back. But then you kind of get right back into it. And there was just a lot of opportunity. And I was used to that consistency. And then when I chose to step away from performing and really focus on training as an actor and getting in class, I am so committed that I was like, all right, I'm committed to like learning the craft of acting. And I went to this great acting school and I fell in love with the teacher, and he was amazing and he worked really well with dancers. There were other dancers that were older than me that were training with him. And I was like, okay, this is the guy I want to train with. So I started to kind of say no to a lot of dance jobs. And then it sort of got to this place of, okay, let me go and pursue this as an actor, right? and taking that high of I'm used to this repetition as a dancer. I'm just going to translate it into acting. And it was like crickets, because I'm like of a certain age at that point. I had this great resume, but nobody really cared about that resume. They were like,
yeah, the dance didn't.
yeah, it didn't matter.
No.
Even though I was working with like A-list directors, and I was on, at that point, I had been on like 50 or 60 sets. Nobody cared. And they were like, good for you. Where's your acting reel? Where are your credits?
Yeah, they're like, you were there as a dancer,
Yeah.
not as an actor.
Yeah, even though I'm like, but I'm picked by these producers and by the director, and I'm working with the director just in this capacity. They did not care. And it was hard to even get an agent. It was because it was like, you need the credits, but you also need the opportunities. And what do you look like on camera and everything? So it was a struggle. It was very humbling, to say the least, because I had to sort of sit myself down and say, it took me years to get to the place of being able to be a working dancer. So what makes me think that it would be any different being a working actor?
Yeah.
And you do hear those stories of people getting plucked out of obscurity, and like, here's these big opportunities. But for the most part, those people that kind of hit it like quickly, they're going through a crash course working with coaches on this. How do I do this? What is this audition process? What is this? How do I work on set or whatever? And, most actors are just going through that in a longer stretch of time, working in classes and with coaches over very many, many years and auditioning and all that stuff. So I had to sort of like, be like, all right, we're going to start at ground zero. And
you were okay with that? Like, once you realized it, or were you like, was there any like anger or bitterness about that?
I don't think there was bitterness as much as there was like, I just want somebody to give me a shot. Like, I really believed in myself. I was like, I can deliver. I just need somebody to give me these opportunities. And maybe that was just a little bit more confidence going into it than I needed or should have had at that time. But I think that's what also kept me motivated to keep going. And I think I also was able to sort of have one foot still in the dance world because I started teaching. So it was like I wasn't saying goodbye to dance completely. I was now shifting into the role of a teacher and an educator while also pursuing acting. So in a way, there was a creative outlet that I also had, and everything wasn't just put into acting. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so it wasn't like all the eggs are in this basket. It was like, I'm focusing on this lane today, but tomorrow I have to go teach at this, conservatory or this school or studio, and I have to create for them and I have to be present for them. So it was a great second outlet to also have creatively, so that I wasn't overly stressed about anything when it came to the acting world. Does that make sense? It was sort of like a nice balance to it.
How important do you think that is for actors and artists to have other outlets, like you're putting it?
For me personally, it's been very helpful. And then there's also been times where I say to myself, my gosh, if I wasn't spending all of this time teaching and all of this energy creating and choreographing, would that energy be put into writing and creating my own work and content as an actor? So I've definitely had those conversations.
But even that, though, it's just a different place of energy, but it's not all in on one thing still.
Yes, so true. So true. And there's times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down for these next 3 months and I'm going to write and create. And that's what I did when I wrote my book. It's like, so there's different things, but I think the balance has been good for me in a lot of ways, because there's times where I will be in the middle of teaching a class and an email will come in on a job that I was on a veil or pinned for, and they went another way. And I have no time to sulk in that because I have to be present for my students.
Yeah.
So it's literally like, I'll go back to my computer. This has happened before many times. I go back and the music comes on. I get an email. I look at it and I'm like, okay. And then, but you're just like immediately, there's no time. I have to be present with what I'm doing, which is teaching and being with these students of mine. So in a lot of ways, it's been helpful to have that balance, because I multitask a lot, and there's, it's like, okay, the first half of like even yesterday, I was like, all right, I'm going to lay down these 2 auditions, but at 2:00 I need to start choreographing because I have to go to this, I have to hop on a plane in 2 days and go and teach and choreograph on this thing. So I can't overthink those auditions, can't spend too much time. It's like, I'm definitely putting in the effort, but I I'm shifting gears when it's time to shift the gear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you kind of talking about this for some reason, it's like making me, and I've never thought of it this way before, but like it's really important as an actor or artist to, you should have like a large inventory list. And so it's like in this list, your everyday life, right? There's like you're teaching, you're choreographing, there's yeses, there's nos, there's times on set, there's times working, there's auditions. It's like this big inventory list. And the yeses and nos are also in there. And like you should be expecting them. Like they should be part of your bag of inventory of like, to have the yeses, I also have to have the nos, right? To have the bookings, I also have to have the auditions, to have like better experiences with other people and connections. I gotta be able to teach and choreograph for others. Like this inventory like bag, it's like we should have all this stuff in it at all times. And again, I think if we can find ways to embrace the rejection or the no's, whatever you want to say, I think you're going to be set up for success better.
It's hard to like pursue this if you can't be okay with hearing no. I tell that to my students all the time. Some of them are younger and they're in the early stages and they've been like hearing yeses a lot and they're starting to hear their first no's and it's crushing. And I'm like, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
This is really good. You need to know how to be okay with this. And we're just going to reframe what that rejection is.
Yes.
And so it's a lot of, and I talk about it in my book too. It's like, it's not rejection, it's protection, selection, redirection, and reflection. So which one do you want to choose today? Is it protecting you and you're not supposed to be on this job? Is it redirecting you to something better? Is it an opportunity for you to reflect on what needs more work or potentially what is working and what you get to build upon that? And is it just that you get to be proud of your work and you just weren't the selection today? But we're not going to go back into, I'm a bad artist, I'm not good enough. It's not that. It's one or the other, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's
Thank
so
you for
important. It's so important. I tell people all the time, I'm like, the audition is not the audition. The audition is like 3 parts. It's all the work that you do prior to that moment of the audition so that when the audition comes, you've been working and you're just like, here's like, what do I want to do with this material to have the most fun I can possibly have, right? And then the moments after, which is, now that we're self-taping, there's not a lot of, you don't really get any feedback really. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like when we're going in the room and you're like, somebody's like, that's really good. This is also what's happening in the script that you might not be aware of. You're
Right.
like, oh, okay. Or like, hey, that's great. Let's try it like this. You get some type of feedback generally sometimes in the room, but when you're self-taping, you don't really get that all the time. But I like to still kind of be like, where did I go with that audition? And, what can I try to learn from this? Or if I get an avail check or I get pinned or I get a booking, oh my God, okay, what did I do in that audition that maybe was a little bit different, that maybe made a difference? Okay, I'm going to do more of that. Or sometimes that is just not your day, and I'm like, okay, this is what I know was the issue. And this is what I know I need to like lean into and have a little bit more work there. So because I see so many young, and I not to take this back to dancers, but I think artists in general, so much pressure is put on the actual moment of the audition. And I'm like, it's so much more than that. I feel like it's a little bit broader than that, I think we put a lot of pressure on the audition moment if we're not really prepared and we haven't been putting in the work to come into those spaces and those opportunities with confidence and knowing whether you've been in class or whether you've been coaching or whatever it is. It's like, oh, I understand what's happening in here and I'm going to make these clear choices. And it might be what they're looking for. It might not be what they're looking for, but I know that I'm completely invested in those choices that I'm making. So I know it's going to be an honest audition for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I like that if you have the ability to change that mindset into the audition is just a small part of the bigger picture, it makes it less important. It makes it less grand. And, then we can move on to the next a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you feel sure, there's certain auditions you get that you're like, this would be amazing.
Right, of course.
You know
of
what
course.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you I daydream about it. Like,
oh, yeah.
but I love that dreaming, and visualizing a lot of things too. So there's some auditions you get and you put a lot of pressure on yourself because it matters to you and you're invested in the work and there's that aspect. But then it's also, there's been times where I've sent in auditions and not heard a word, and that audition has circled back a year later in some way and gotten me a booking for something else.
I have those stories too.
You
Yeah.
know? And so when that happened to me for the first time, I was like, oh my God, every moment matters.
Yes.
Every audition matters. Even when you think you're just like, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm just like, I'm going to do my best in this moment. I had a friend of mine that's a series regular she's been a series regular many times. And she's like, I'm just all about having fun at this point. Like, I want to dive in, have the most fun I can have on this material. She's not thinking about, am I hitting this beat correctly? Am I doing this? She's a very skilled actress and she knows exactly what she's doing. And she's like, I'm going to have fun with it. And it's going to be a good time, And I'm like, yeah, this is your time. Enjoy it. But the knowing that every audition that you put out there has the potential to lead to something else and is a bigger picture and it matters is so important, because I think then you care about what you're doing. You're not just throwing stuff out there. A lot of actors are like, I'm just throwing my tapes out and I'm not hearing anything. And I was like, but you don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yes.
And you don't know, depending on how that casting director works, you don't know if they're passing your tape on to producers and whether they're letting your team know about that or not. You could be completely in the mix and not hear anything, but still in the mix. It's like just depending on how they do things in their office. You know what I'm saying? So I just like to remember that every audition is an opportunity to do what we love, have fun with it, and make a great impression.
Such a good point.
It's so basic too.
It's well, you know what I was gonna say is like you have to like accept that.
Yeah.
Like you get to make the decision on how you look at it. You can look at it as this is another audition I'm probably not gonna get, and it's going out there, and maybe they're watching it, maybe they're not, or it's like this is another time that I'm making a positive impact on them, and who knows what this tape is going to lead to or what's going to happen. Like you get to make the decision.
Right.
And so often we make the decision of over here, which is like, and it's like, you simply just have to make the decision that this is going to be more powerful than you think it's going to be.
Absolutely. Because like, if you come from that other mindset of, I know that I'm not the right one, they're going to cast whatever, but then you lay down the tape anyways. I'm like, you should have just passed on the audition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're going to lay down the tape. So why not go into it with the attitude of, let's just have a good time here? Because there's so many times I've listened to casting directors in different interviews that are like, listen, we bring producers what we think they're going to want, and then we'll bring something so far left that is not how it's written, that is completely out of the box just to show them another version. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Huh. So sometimes when you get the breakdown or whatever, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, what conversations have been had. That breakdown could mean nothing at this point of the audition.
Yep.
The scenes are different. So many times we've gotten dummy sides. Don't take yourself out of the running. If they've brought you in, I want to always believe they're bringing you in to see what you're going to do with the role.
Of course.
And not to waste your time. You know what I mean?
I think also I'm like, they're not bringing you in to make you feel good or make you feel bad or to waste their time.
Right.
They're bringing you in because they think you have a shot at doing a good job and maybe booking it.
Yeah. Yep.
So true. Yeah. I love that you said all that. I got to know, I know that you were like, well, not to go back to dance, but I want to go back to dance for a second. Because you have danced with Katy Perry, Rihanna, Beyoncé. I mean, you have a pretty prestigious dance career. It's pretty cool. You've danced in the Super Bowl a couple times. Can you tell me something that you've learned along the way of your different tours or kind of, alongside these like major superstars, like, I don't know, a lesson or something that like you seem to kind of sometimes go back to, whether it's adding to that work ethic or mindset or whatever it might be?
Right. I don't think I realized this at the time when I was dancing, but I realized it when I started pursuing an acting career that when you're dancing for an artist, you're servicing the overall vision of that artist. Say it's a tour. What is the creative direction of the tour? What is the vision of the artist? You're an extension of that artist. So you're servicing that vision for them. Same as if you were to walk on set and service the scene and the actor and the story and all of those things. So I think working with especially artists of that caliber, and when I was working with, Rihanna, it was on her Good Girl Gone Bad tour album, which was huge. It was the Umbrella album. It was massive for her. It was Katy Perry's California Dreams and Teenage Dream tour, which was massive for her. So it was like watching these youngish artists at the time sort of explode and being part of those albums with them. There was a work ethic and a consistent like meeting of the moment that you had to have, and you were on that ride with them. So, as things started to build and their tours would get more massive and successful, and a new song would roll out and there's a new hit, there's a higher demand when you're on tour. There's now this award show and now this performance and all of that. And so you are there to service that artist, and you're there to rise to the occasion and meet those moments. And there's no time to, I'm not feeling great today or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Of course, everybody's human and all that, but there was a level that you were expected to hit. And especially, working with certain artists, Beyoncé, Pink, I mean, the work ethic that they bring into a room is like next level. And there would be times where I'd be on stage and that artist would walk on and you like feel the stage shake because of the level in which they're performing in. And you have to match that because you're an extension of them. And also understanding that, when I was a kid and I would go see Janet Jackson or Paula Abdul in concert, I fell in love with those dancers. And I knew very much that there's kids out in that audience that are coming to see the artist for sure, but some of them are going to look at these dancers on stage and be like, I want to do that one day. Yeah. And so there was a responsibility to also be that for them in a way, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's, so much that I couldn't even list right now that you learn along the way. And not just the work ethic, but how to handle your money and your finances when you're probably getting paid more than you've ever been paid before. And consistently, it's like, how do I prepare myself for the future? When I finished my first tour when I was 22, I think, I was like, oh, I think I should set up a retirement fund. This is interesting. What do I, and so it's like starting to get all of that going, but it's like,
you're the only one that did that.
No, I had a family member that was like, wait a minute. Okay. So how much are you making now? And I was like, this, and they're like, okay, so this is what it means to pay your taxes quarterly. This is what it means to set up a retirement. And then we're also going to set up a separate account. And every month you're going to deposit into this account. I'm like, but I need my money. No. This is how this works, So it was very helpful for budgeting my money, helping to set myself up for the future and all of that, which, that's a whole other conversation.
What that I want to get into actually, because you have, you've never had like a real person job, right? Right? Have you ever had a real person job?
I mean, in high school, yes. And in college, yes.
Okay.
But when I moved to LA, I left college and, my father had passed away when I was very young. I was 18 when he passed away. And then I wasn't very happy at school. And I was like, you know what? This is my life. I want to do what I want to do with it. And I want to be happy. And I'm going to go where I feel like I can make my dreams come true. And if I'm going to give up a college degree and I'm going to give up this experience to pursue, a career in entertainment, then I'm going to solely make my living in the entertainment industry. And I was able to do that. It was very rough the first year in LA. It was very like living, down to the dollar and knowing how to budget my money and doing enough jobs here or there to kind of get me by. And then 9 months in, I booked my first tour. And then that set me up because it not only set me up financially to be able to come off that tour and have a little bit of a cushion, but that choreographer opened doors for me with other choreographers. And then when I got off that tour, it was like I had started to make these new relationships and then they had started to hire me. And then that's how that went. But there would be, there's times where you're not working or you're waiting to get paid for a job.
Yeah.
And so knowing how to, it might look like you're getting this amount of money, but I never looked at it like that's what I'm getting. It's like, well, once I put this in the retirement, once I put this in the savings, once I pay these bills and all that, what do I actually have left for myself, And I've always liked to just I've never really liked to stress about money, so I've always made sure that I've sort of didn't ever overspend or live beyond my means,
Yeah.
Never wanted to rack up credit card debt, any of that.
How did you, yeah, because I mean, to be able to budget and make sure that you're making money and having money and not have to go get another job, it definitely takes a certain amount of like responsibility and I think willpower and control.
Yes. Yeah.
So it sounds like that came from somebody in your life, or was that something that kind of just kind of came naturally to you? Because I feel like when I speak and work with so many actors, there's quite a few, it's like have a lot of credit card debt and, they
That would
just were
stress me
not
out.
educated on
Yeah.
finances, so
Yes.
where did that come from for you? And then what's like the biggest piece of advice you have for an artist when it comes to finances?
Nobody really educated me on it either. I slowly learned along the way. Um, and I think, I didn't grow up in a family where we had a lot. We'd never, my mom worked 4 jobs my whole life growing up. I wouldn't have been able to dance if she wasn't the secretary at my dance studio. She worked a 3rd job so my brothers could go to private school.
Shout out to mom again.
Yes. She made jewelry on the side when I needed to compete. She would make my dance costumes. Like, that's the kind of family I grew up in. My dad owned a business, and when it did well, it did well. And when it didn't do well, it didn't do well. And so I saw them struggle at times. And that was like, I never want to have that stress. So I'm going to make sure that I don't overspend. And also, too, I think what I was seeing is dancers that were getting off tour and they were buying bags and labels and TVs and this and that. And within 5 months, they could not pay their rent. And
Right.
that is terrifying for me because, again, I didn't have the luxury yet. Once I left college, my mom's like, you are on your own. You are in the real world. And I'm just going to let you know, like, do what you need to do. If you need something, obviously I'm going to be here for emergencies, but you are in the real world and you're going to be paying your way. So at 20 years old, I was like, okay, I got to pay my way. And so it's like, I also, I budgeted the money when I needed to. I knew what my expenses were. I knew what I needed to make in order to meet those expenses. And sometimes some months I made more and I knew that, well, what do I have coming down in the next couple of months? I don't really have anything on the calendar. A job might come up, it might not. So I'm going to try to pace this out and prepare in case I don't work for those next couple of weeks or whatever. So it was a lot of strategy and it was a lot of just like, again, definitely the self-control, not living beyond my means. And I got really clear on like what's actually important to me. I'm not a big person that likes luxurious things, but I like to take care of myself. So self-care, like those are the things that I'll spend the money on, When it comes to young people not understanding how to pay taxes or how to invest the money, I think it's so important for them to find somebody that does do that, or a mentor, somebody that's been there before and is like, hey, I'm making this amount of money. These are my expenses. What would you suggest I do? Because having that extra guidance and not to say you got to give everybody your numbers and all that stuff, but having that extra person that you trust, whether it's a family member or somebody that's in the industry that can help guide you. So you're not sort of figuring it out on your own. But I also think, I had a professional dancer. She was 10 years older than me. She was a rockhead at the time. And she said something to me when I was like 15. And she's like, you have to know how to handle your money because you could go months and never work in this business. And I was like, really? Like, I just was like, huh? But I was 15. So I was like, I didn't know that.
But you still remember it.
But I
though.
remember that.
Dang. Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I prepare myself for those months when I don't have work. I think what a lot of people do is they'll see the dollar amount. I have this right now. And I'm like, yeah, you have that right now. But is that going to stretch you until when is your next job that's on the calendar? Oh, it's in 2 months, whatever. Is that going to stretch you for 2 months in case it needs to?
Yeah, I think what also happens mindset wise is like, oh, I booked this. And so now this big domino waterfall effect is going to happen. And then the next one's going to come and the next one's going to come. You got to plan for the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to plan that that's not happening.
Yeah.
But I think we often think now it's finally going to start to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, and nothing's guaranteed, I mean, there's nobody over here passing out jobs to you left and right. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely not.
You know, so it's like, but that's the thing too, is as an educator and as a teacher, I can create a schedule and I can create the work that I need to for myself, which is a nice thing to have too. You know, I know how to fill my calendar in that way, right? And so again, that allows me and affords me the opportunity to not have so much stress around the acting world or not put everything into that one basket, because I know that I have peace of mind in a way financially in other ways. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I think whatever you need to do for yourself to make yourself feel good and at peace and have a good relationship with money. You know, I think that's another thing too, is I ask people a lot, what's your relationship with money? And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, do you get stressed when you have it? Do you get excited when you have it? How do you feel when you have money? I know when I pay my credit card, I feel so grateful. When I pay my mortgage, I feel so grateful. Thank God I have the money for this. You know, it's not like I don't feel like I'm losing the money. It's just like, great, this is just a flow that's happening. It's allowing me to live my life. And you know what I mean? So
I always feel very accomplished when I pay my bills.
Yes.
I'm like, oh yeah, I did it.
Yeah. Because I mean, especially if you've created a lifestyle for yourself that requires, you know, a bit much, then that is such an accomplishment.
Yeah.
But I think knowing how to handle your finances, and if you don't know, it's okay to ask and seek out that guidance, mentorship, coaching. How does taxes work? How do my write-offs work? You know, and I personally take every paycheck and I put 30% of it away into a separate account. Just lives over there.
Yeah.
Then every month I have all of my money that goes out on my investments, right? And then I know what my overhead is for bills, right? Like bare minimum. And then I know what I like to have on the extra. You know what I'm saying? But then when it's time to pay taxes, whether it be quarterly, whatever, I'm not losing any money because that money's been put away and I don't even know. I don't even pay attention to it.
Speaking of taxes, you know what I'm doing right now? I just hired a tax strategist.
Oh.
Yeah, just hired a tax strategist. So we'll see how that goes.
What do they do?
Well, we're on the podcast here, so.
Oh, okay.
But the tax strategist, essentially, you know, they're just very familiar with all the different codes and all the tax lines that like a normal CPA wouldn't like know every single line. So it's more like, you know, within the businesses, what could I maybe be doing that would help me keep more of my money or spend it in a different way?
Yeah.
You know, just kind of all the strategies when it comes to tax and especially since it recently changed, you know, kind of understanding all the changes and stuff like that. But, you know, it's interesting. Yeah. Like what I feel like I'm hearing in this conversation with you too is like, I know we want it to be talent, you know, and I'm like, there's so many elements to you that have nothing to do with talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like your work ethic, it was your financial smarts. It's like, so is your connections and obviously like the networking that you were able to do and not burning any bridges and like how one job leads to the next, like so many other things. And I think just like, it's so important to really understand everyone is like, if you want to be successful in this industry, it's not just, you know, be a good actor.
No, it's not. I mean, that might get you a job.
Right.
But that's not going to give you a career, I don't think. You know? I mean, you could have a great audition, get booked for that job, not have the wherewithal and the understanding of everything else that you sort of really need to know of what it's like to be on set and work with this person and how to communicate with this. You know what I mean? And that job just is that one job. It doesn't lead to other things. It didn't open doors for you to make the right connections with whether it be, you know, the director, the producers, the showrunners, or whatever, to lead to the next opportunity. So I think the more you understand not just about the craft, but also the business. And listen, I'm continuing to understand and learn more and evolve as the business changes. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, you know? So, and every day is learning. Every day have the opportunity to be on set. It's like, oh, interesting. That's how this one's running. Like, okay, that's cool. Like, oh, these are how these people are working. That's great. You know, it's like, I think you sort of have to be a sponge. And when I was dancing professionally and on set, like I was not sitting around like in trailers. I was trying to be on set and be like, what is going on? How does this work? Okay, so that's what the cinematographer does. Okay, that's what the directors do. This is what the actors are doing. That's what the choreographers do. And this is how they're talking to the actors. Because now I've had the opportunity to choreograph on films before. And it's a different language than just being a dancer, of how you communicate with the dancers, how you communicate with the actors, what you can and cannot do with background or extras. It's a whole other thing. So I was always sort of a hawk and trying to do what I was hired to do, but also learn about all the moving parts that go into the overall picture that we're all making together. And I think that really helped me when I started to get on set as an actor. I was like, oh, I've been here a bunch of times. I've been observing. I know what's kind of going on. It didn't feel like I was just thrust into this environment, having not known how these things work before. So I think you have to, yes, craft, but also understanding business, networking, relationships, your reputation, all of that, because those open the doors that sometimes talent can't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
or like that, even like it opens the doors to get your talent seen.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes,
that's the better way to say it.
Yeah,
for
it's like
sure.
sometimes you got to get let into the building, and it's not your talent that gets you into the building.
Mm-hmm.
It's something else.
Yeah. I mean, I've had, when I started pursuing acting, it was like, I felt like I couldn't even get arrested. It was like, I thought I was like, really, there was times it's like I couldn't even get in the room. And then I would like beg, I think I'm really right for this. Can I throw myself on tape for this or whatever? And I had a really good friend at the time. He was very well connected. And he's like, I'm really good friends with like the head casting director for such and such. I would love to introduce you. And I was like, I would love for you to introduce me. You know what I mean? And it's like, then when I got into her room, she's like, I'm bringing you straight into producers. Like, usually I don't take referrals from friends, but she's like, this is very good, and I want producers to see you. And I'm like, had he not opened that door just out of us being friends, he's not even in the business, but he's in the business of helping and supporting people.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, you're trying to do this. You're having a bit of a hard time. I know somebody that's like really high up, head of casting. Let me see if I can get that. And now we have a nice relationship. We have a friendship. But that door would have not never, but she's casting high up there. It's like, I don't know as if I would have had that opportunity just based off of an audition tape.
Right.
So, and there's been times where, I've worked on a show and made a great connection with the director, and then that director refers me to other producers that are working on other things, or I run into that director again on another thing, and then your name is being said and your face, it's just like, it's networking. I mean, essentially, but, and I think there's a way to do it that is professional and thoughtful and not cringe or over the top or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I also think, and what I try to tell my students as well, is understanding the value that you bring is so important when it comes to networking. It's not about asking somebody to do something for you. It's also about understanding the value you can bring to them, because it's a shared partnership. It's or a shared relationship,
Well, you know what? I was so inspired by the person that made that introduction. Is like, that person is just a giver, right? They just want to be a go-giver. And it's like, I think that's just another part of it. How can we give? How can we offer value? How can we support others? And, that will ultimately, as long as you're doing it from the right place, I think, but, how can you do that for others around you? How can you do that for your actor circle, your actor tribe, the people around you?
Yeah.
And, when you're constantly giving and offering value, it will come back around.
I believe that to be true. I mean, because there's enough room for everybody.
Yeah.
It's like we're all in this together, I remember somebody would call, be like, hey, can you do this job? I'm like, I can't, but I have the best person for you. And I loved referring people. I loved connecting people. And like, I need 10 dancers. Great. hold on. Like, I would just have my friends, like, try to get as many people opportunity as possible. I really loved doing that. I loved making introductions. I loved giving opportunities. And I never felt like it's taking anything away from me. Does that make sense? So like, when people understand that everybody is in their own lane and there's enough room for everybody. And when you see the friend next to you winning, it's showing you what's possible. It's not, you're not in this competition with them. It's like, oh, that's inspiration for me. Like they're doing it. It's showing me it's possible. I want them to continue to have that success. And I also want it for myself. And I think that's okay. I think when it gets to the point of like, I don't want that for them, but I want it for me. That's the dangerous zone to be in. That's the operating from scarcity of there's not enough. If that person has that, that means I don't. That's not what it's about. It's about, also too, like when I see my friends win, I know the work that they're doing to get that. And I'm like so happy for them because I know what's going on behind the scenes, behind closed doors that nobody else is seeing. And I almost feel like when they're winning, I'm like, I can feel that for them because it's great,
So beautifully put. And I think another element to this too is, I take a lot of pride in like my kind of friend community, right? And I'm like, all of them are working.
That's great.
And it's like, but I take pride that I'm like, I'm part of that group. I'm part of the group where we all work.
Thriving.
As opposed to, I don't want them to work because I want to be working. Like, you want to be the only person that's working in a group that no one is working. It's like, you want to give so everyone is successful. And when you are around those successful people, like if you're around a bunch of people that just constantly book, guess who's going to start booking? Like you are, because it's just like what you're surrounding yourself with. So I think that's just another element to like why that's a good idea to like not be in that scarcity of like, no, it's for me, it's for me, it's for me. If I give it away, then I can't have it. And it's like, no, it's not yours to begin with.
That's so true. I know. I had an acting coach tell me, he's like, you don't like the job is not yours to lose. Like it's somebody so-and-so got my job. He's like, what is that? That is like, it's not yours. Like, and I was like, I always laugh about it. Cause sometimes you will hear chatter of like, I didn't get it because of this or that. I'm like, you actually have no clue why you didn't get it. Unless somebody actually picked up the phone and said those exact words to you, you're creating scenarios in your head that probably 90% of the time are not true.
99% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and it just takes away from that person's success too.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Well, Rachel, this has been such a lovely conversation. I feel like we could just go into podcast 2. We just do another one right now.
I feel like we didn't talk about it.
I know we did, but we are at our spotlight sign off, which is 5 questions to end strong.
Let's go.
So question number 1 is, what's something you're super grateful for today?
I'm grateful to be here and have this conversation with you and talk about very similar mindset and approaches to our work and our craft.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I'm also grateful for that. I'm also grateful for that. Question 2 is, what is a film, television show, book that changed the trajectory of your life?
Oh my gosh.
In your case, it could also be a show, I guess. It could be like a live performance if you want.
Can I say it in an audition?
Sure.
Okay. So I was in a producer session for a recurring guest star in a network show.
Okay.
And it was when I was starting my acting career, and I had so many people were saying, don't tell anybody you're a dancer. They'll never take you seriously as an actor.
Okay.
So I was really hiding all of my work as a dancer. And I'm in this producer session in the room with multiple producers. And the casting director is like, we're going to have you slate again. And as you slate, just talk a little bit about your dance background, because this character was putting herself through law school by dancing at a burlesque club, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I'm pretty good with movement. I can, I'm good with picking up choreography. I'm comfortable in my skin. I was so vague. And she stopped the tape and she's like, okay, well, your agents pitched you as somebody that is very like proficient in all of these styles. And we heard that you had just gone on tour with Rihanna and all this stuff. So either they're lying to me or what's going on. I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I said, no, they're right. I did do this. I'm proficient in jazz, all this stuff. She's like, okay, will you wait outside? So I finished my audition. I wait outside and she's like, did some idiot acting coach or manager tell you not to talk about your dance? I said, that's exactly what they did. And she goes, part of what kept you in this audition process and what got you to producers is your background as a dancer. She's like, that's who you are as an artist. Don't ever hide that.
Yes.
And it was such a eye-opening moment because because when I was in that transition, I was really had like identity crisis. Who am I?
Right.
Am I this? Am I that? And in my blood, I was always like, I'm an artist. I do all these things. And I don't want to have to dim my light in one area to make it more clear for somebody else to see me in another light. And so having her say that to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to own every part of my artistry from now on.
Damn, let's go.
I
Mic
didn't
drop.
get the job.
No, but
it was the best
you learned a
lesson I
way
could have
better
had.
lesson.
Yeah.
Way better lesson.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yes.
I love that she came out. Did some
Did
freaking
some
acting?
idiot acting coach or manager or agent tell you? I was like, that's exactly what happened. I was like young. I'm like, yes. And she's like, don't you ever. And I was like, okay.
Oh, it's so good. That's really great. Okay. What's something in your daily routine that you really cherish?
My yoga practice.
Okay. You do that every day?
Every day that I'm home, I do like a 7 a.m. yoga.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. How long?
It's an hour.
Yeah.
I love it. And
You're doing it on like Peloton? You just got a thing memorized? You just do what you want? What is it?
no, I go to a yoga
Oh, okay,
studio
you
and
wanna-
I do
okay,
my
got it.
my
Yeah.
hot yoga.
Nice, all right.
That's the thing that I've been very consistent with for the last couple of years. So that's
Yeah. No,
that's
good.
my like
I like some
mental
hot
health
yoga.
as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like some hot yoga. What are you currently trying to improve in your life right now?
I think a little bit more of the work-life balance. There's times where it's really great, and there's other times where it's just all work, and I'm trying to find more pockets of time for myself. It's getting better. It's definitely getting better, but that would probably be the thing.
You know, I feel like I just had a realization about work-life balance, which is that on like a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis, your work-life balance is continuously going to change, you know? So I feel like it's like, instead of like, I need to improve my work-life balance, which is what a lot of people say, it's like, we really just need to be like more aware of ourselves, you know? Because like sometimes there's a lot more work going on and like, you love it.
Yeah.
Like you don't need more life balance because you're doing all this work and you freaking love it. You know
true,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like when you're on tour, you know, your ass is working your ass off and you love every moment of it, I'd
Totally.
imagine, right?
Yeah.
You're not like, I need to like spend more time meditating. You're like, no, I need to dance my ass off.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I think it's like, it may be at least, I don't
Yeah.
know. I just kind of had this epiphany of like this, we just need to have awareness of like, what is my, how gratified am I in my life? How happy am I am right now in my life? And do I need to just like, you know, tweak something? Yeah, exactly. Do I need to just go on another hike? Do I need to spend more time with my dogs?
Yeah.
Or do I need to like buckle down and send more emails and spend more time in my audition homework or whatever? And just like, where are you not feeling as satisfied, and just tweak?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm always about, I'm grinding all the time. So I'm working on what's going on right now, and I'm also thinking about what I can set up for later.
Right.
And that's where
It's that retirement fund.
That's right. That's right. It's my vacation home in Europe.
Yeah.
It's all those things. But it's also like, there's times where I'm like, okay, I'm in this mode. And what I want to be better at is like, oh, no. It's 4:00 and I'm going to sit here and just have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
get better with that and not feel like I have to jump on the computer to do something or respond to this email or get this going. It's like, nothing's that pressing and it can wait. And if this gives me a moment to like fill up my cup a little bit so that I'm in a better place mentally to be able to fulfill those other things, then that's what I need to do.
I love that. And I think, you know, for you and for everyone listening, it's like, but like, let's let it be that easy, right? When you're like, you know, work-life balance, and everyone says it, right? Is like, it sounds like this big machine we have to like fix, but it's like, literally after this, you can just go have a cup of coffee and you did it.
Be okay.
And
with
you
it.
did it.
Yeah.
You know, and you just did the work-life
Yeah.
balance thing. You just made the tweak and it was that easy.
Yeah.
And you know, if halfway through the coffee you want to start working again, like you
Right.
can, but don't
Right.
feel obligated. And you know, it's just those little things I think we can
Yeah.
just do. Like, I'm always trying to figure out like, how can we make this easy? How can we make it easy?
Well, and also like get yourself and your body and your spirit in alignment and in a good place so that when you're going to do those tasks and you're doing those other things and you're in work mode or whatever, there's a sense of ease and flow as opposed to like, you know what I'm like, the tense or like the anxiety or whatever, you know? So, because that's what I have noticed before is like when it's nonstop. And there's some months, like July was very busy for me in terms of I was working on a show and I was also traveling to multiple states and I was teaching and choreographing. There's a lot going on. And there were those moments where I was like, I need to take a moment because I'm expecting my mind and my body to deliver a lot right now. And it won't deliver for me unless I like pour into my cup really quick.
Yes.
You know, and I think being somebody that uses their body and their instrument, which is my body all the time, I'm very aware of that. That's why it's like the yoga for me is like non-negotiable because it keeps my instrument flowing the way I need it to flow so that I can deliver in certain aspects of my work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Yes.
We have gone over quite a bit today.
Yeah.
So it might be a callback to something we've already discussed or maybe something that you wish that we hit. But if you wanted the listeners to learn and get one thing for sure, really have a solid takeaway, what would it be?
I think, God, there's so many. I think looking at things from a big picture and the overall vision that you have for your life, for your career, and understanding that whatever little thing is happening right now, it's just a small moment in time, whether it's good or whether it's bad, right? So taking just perspective on things, I think is so important. I think it keeps you in the game or it makes you pack up and get out, you know? But I also think like loving what you're doing and enjoying the process and however long it's taking for you or whatever those roadblocks you might be coming up against, to just embrace it all. I really feel like if you love it, it's worth the struggles. I mean, like I have this conversation with, you know, my brother, he's a film and TV writer as well. He has his own set of successes and his own set of struggles too. And we talk about this all the time. And I'm like, man, if I did not love this, like I wouldn't put a second of my time into it.
Right.
You know, but I think if you really ask yourself those questions, like, I really love this, I don't see myself doing anything else. Okay, then I'm on board for whatever it takes, you know? But I know that that's so different for everybody because some people are like, you know what, I love this, but I don't love it enough to keep doing this. And I don't love my quality of life. And that's okay too. And that's okay to be like, yeah, then you might want to take a break for a second and then revisit. There's no sense in like pushing up against something if you're feeling the resistance to it.
Yeah.
But I always tell my students, like, you have to think big picture. You have to look at the big lesson here. What is this here to teach you? How is this going to make you stronger? What are you going to take from this experience and take it into your next opportunity or whatever comes your way?
Yeah.
You know?
I love it. Rachel,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Thank
being here. It's
you.
just so wonderful getting to connect with you during this
Same.
time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And if you are still here, which I hope you are, and you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. And please leave the podcast a review, whether you are listening on Apple or Spotify. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can comment. Let us know what you thought about the episode. And don't forget about our exclusively on YouTube sister show, Talent Agent Talk, hosted by Jason Lockhart. Be sure to check that out, everyone. And thanks again so much for being here. We'll see you on the next one.